Indie housing market. I'm Kyle.morris.
I'm Shelly Walters.
I'm Ross Bromstrup with Tucker Mortgage.
So we just wanted to go into today. We had a couple ideas about it. First of all, brought by energy sodas, the lifeblood of real estate agents. Shelly already set down her Red Bull. We were debating. I'm a connoisseur of energy sodas, as Ross knows, but a couple of different things. So fear in the market from both sellers and buyers. First of all, we kind of want to talk about both of those perspectives. But one of the interesting articles that we kind of saw this week, and anybody who's followed us on this one or a previous one, we always talk about what the media is putting out there and like how it's accurate, but it is always angled in a certain way that's slightly, it's clickbait, right? Is what it is.
Right.
When you actually look at what the numbers they're using say versus what the
Well, how you break them
headline
down,
says.
like we can pull stats however we want. We do that with all kinds of things. So
And we can say whatever we want with it, right?
Right,
I
yeah.
mean, that's
we can make it look right no matter how we want it to
right,
be.
based
Yeah.
off of stats. When I was in the pharmaceutical industry, that was one of the things you look at all these clinical, I can't even think of the word off the top of my head, but anyways, like the statistics of like whether something was the efficacy of it or whatever it may be, like it's based on the stats and how they angle it, right? There's always stats to support something. But one of the things we saw was about affordability in Hamilton County, and so we wanted to do Hamilton
Or
County.
lack thereof.
Lack thereof,
Yeah,
right.
right.
And
Mhm.
so we did a couple counties with it, and it was saying that you can't even buy a house basically in Hamilton County sub $200,000, right? And so, and basically the headline said, Hamilton County is not affordable anymore,
And it also went as far to say it's only for the rich, which
is not accurate.
I mean, it's just so negative and just trying to look at it. But we were also talking about how the fact is what we're looking at. If they're specifically saying under 200,000, that's just not a standard price point anywhere. They were forcing it into Hamilton County, but we looked the stats up, and so we did get the numbers. So in Hamilton County, right now, there's actually 5 under 200.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not a lot, but really, where can you find a lot of homes under 200 anymore? I mean, that's like trying to compare ourselves to the 1950s. I mean, nothing's the same. Bread doesn't cost 25 cents anymore. Nothing is the same. It's always going to get better, or not better, higher, due to what we were talking about, all kinds of things, inflation
Yeah, and to
or
your
whatever.
point, Shelly, I mean, homes have appreciated over the last, 3 or 4 years significantly. And we see also in the media, with interest rates, yes, of course, they're on the rise, too, as well. But when you're combating higher interest rates, you see that on the news with, yes, it's nice that home values are, jumping up. It can take, a certain, portion of that sector, out of the market. So, but there's, of course, also, positive, ranges too with it as well.
Right. So if you own a house, like everybody wants their house to go up in value. If you're a first time home buyer, you're like, this sucks, right? Like, I mean, my first house we bought in like, 03.
Which is 20 years ago, if we really
Thank
want
you
to do
for
that.
letting me know that.
Right.
Yeah, it was
But
a
I
lot
mean,
longer.
20 years ago,
You got some
is-
good equity in
yeah,
that.
but 20 years ago, prices were lower on everything.
It was 109 for a
Yeah.
ranch over at like 79th and Harcourt, and that house today is probably worth 275, 265.
Right.
Like that's just the reality.
And you made a lot of equity on that home.
Well, I sold it like 5 years later, right, and moved out of it. But if I would have owned it, I would have, right?
Yeah.
But like that's what we had to do. Our interest rate was high. All of these things when we bought it. But like there is still affordable housing. We wanted jobs, we wanted infrastructure, we wanted tech jobs, all these things that has made Indianapolis appealing. Well, it's become appealing, and so more people are coming here, right? So property values have gone up, but there still are houses out there. Like you can go into Morgan County, you can go into, like you go up to Anderson, Greenfield, all these other places. It's just the suburbs specifically that are really, really close.
Yeah,
have
the
kind
ones
of
that
gone up in value.
circle Marion County.
And for
Marion
the
County has 435 houses under 200,000.
Right.
So you can, but you were saying something earlier before we started to compare everything. So if we look at 20 years ago or 10 years ago, and now everybody's income has also gone up.
Yeah.
Everything's going up. It's relative.
It is. But and then we were historically low. That's what always gets
Right.
left out of that. It's like, oh, we've
Values
gone
of
up
homes were historically
so
low.
low.
That's why
And
everybody
so-
moved here.
Interest rates
Yeah.
were in the double digits. We're talking 12,
Yeah.
14%. But when you fit in, what's that payment look like on the mortgage? It's a lot different now. From a high 7% interest rate with a home that's valued at 350, 400,000.
It's hard too
But-
because like as a first time home buyer, like it does come down to affordability and the price obviously has a big play into like what your loan to value is, right? And
Right.
what you're doing, and then your 8% or actually, well, if you're FHA, it's going to be lower right now. It's lower than conventional interest rates, but there still is affordable housing out there. And one of the things that gets overlooked in all of this is when I bought my first house, it was not my last house.
Right.
I also had a house in between my current house and that house. Like I'm on my third house, right?
So what I hear you saying is, it's our first home, and my wife and I were on our third home now. That your first home, yes, it's a big commitment, but it's probably not going to be your forever home.
It's
Same
an
thing-
entry into home ownership.
Same thing
Yeah.
with entry into home ownership, and we'll get into what the three main categories, what it takes to purchase a home, but interest rates too as well. They're a sticker. I think of them like that, and what we see on the news with the Federal Reserve, what mortgage companies are combating is inflation. We see it not just in homes, but we're seeing it also too at the grocery store, at the gas pump. The Federal Reserve is trying to combat inflation in the market, and then also jobs. So a well-balanced economy, there's an influx of jobs. If we can get to producing and manufacturing our own goods in that city as a country, that's what makes the economy be a well-balanced and go around.
To your point, like we have to raise interest rates to battle inflation. Like if we didn't do that, I can't imagine what these price points would be right now.
Because
Based off of like 2020,
what was going on
2022,
two or 3 years ago?
Yeah.
People, we were given
There wouldn't be anything
we were
sub
given our
250.
right arm,
Yeah.
because
And thank goodness that's gone
interest rates being
for now.
3% or the high twos, that's historically low, and that's why
won't
we're
come back, right?
Yeah, it's not going to come
never
back.
come back.
If we can get back into, and I honestly think over the next several years that we will get there, if we can get into the high fours, then that's a huge win.
Speaking of which, what are we at today?
So on a 30-year fixed conventional rate, we're at 7.875, and then our government loans, so our FHA, our VA, our USDA loans, were about 7.625. And of
Which is
course-
encouraging the new home buyer because they got a better interest rate right now
Yeah.
than if you just had a conventional.
And we have first-time homebuyer, programs with a conventional mortgage. We have a Home Ready program, which offers traditionally with a conventional mortgage, we're going to put 5% down or more. Now with Home Ready, we can put down as little as 3%, and
So 3% is a conventional still.
yeah. So which is combat that. I always say with closing costs, you're looking 2 to 3% too as well. With that, but that's
Well, we also, just to interrupt you, is we are able to ask for closing
Closing
costs
costs
again
is
for our
concession,
buyers.
yeah.
So that's where it's a good thing
and
for
that's
that.
something that was it was a total seller's market 2 or 3 years ago, and the sellers all held the cards at that time. So
And the 2-1 buy down, we can ask for those sometimes as well.
2-1 buy down, and that helps yes, on the listing side of it, but also too, what buyer would not want an interest rate that's 2% lower that first year and then 1% lower the second year based on the qualifying rate
Yeah.
That the seller's paying for.
that the seller is paying for. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll take that all day.
Yeah, and it's hard. It is hard though to explain to sellers. I know many times on my listings, I'm trying to explain to them it's a nice concession for the buyer to stand out, because we've said this before. So if we have a $300,000 house for sale here and one here, and this seller is offering the 2-1 buy down and this one isn't, this house over here is going to sell, I would think, so much easier because a buyer is
I would
getting
think
more.
that traffic would be driven,
Yeah.
you know.
The sellers just don't understand. They're like, I don't have to do that. But with these rates, buyers are pulling back. Do you feel that your clients are starting to pull back a little bit? I mean,
Yeah.
now that you're saying 7.6 and 7.8, that's higher than it has been. It's the highest it's been.
To your point, you know, a home even 300,000, you know, north of that, combated with an interest rate in the high sevens, it makes a big difference in your monthly mortgage payment. And for an example, my wife and I, you know, we have a home that we built with Lennar 2 years ago, and where rates are now, you know, we'd be looking at a $1,200 to $1,300 increase in what we're paying now in our mortgage. You know, so it's being able to have those options, you know, that are available, you know, to us. And there's always, folks are looking to upsize. You know, we had our first child a year and a half ago, and folks are always looking to upsize, downsize if we're looking at retirement, and then first-time home buyers.
Yeah, well, we're looking at what we're talking about is fear in the market, just for anything. And I think anything a seller can do to help alleviate the fear of a buyer to come to their house and purchase their home is an excellent opportunity to pick that buyer, or that buyer to pick your house. And it's just really a hard thing to explain. But I really don't see right now much for us to do for the buyers who are very concerned about being in the market at these rates. We always say buy the house, date the rate. They can do that. But, you know, to your point, what you were saying, another $1,300 a month, if we can get a seller to help them that first year and second year, hopefully within the third year, you're refinancing. We say this every week, but it's just hard to help these buyers that have
And after
fear.
6 payments, you can refinance your mortgage too as well. And that's why I say, you know,
if you have to
it's
move,
a sticker.
do it.
And there's also the other side of the coin that, you know, paying rent, you know, and rent has gone up too as well. You're paying 100% interest. So that 100% is higher than, you know,
it's hard though, because I mean, like, there's just fear involved with it, because like, hey, I'm paying rent. Well, like, that's all I've done, so I don't know any better, and it seems to be working, right? So, and you don't necessarily understand the benefits of. So buying your first house, it almost isn't about your first house.
You're buying a house when you're
You're buying your landlord's house. Right? But, for me, the reason I was able to buy my second and third houses is because I bought the first house.
Your equity.
Because I didn't need a down payment all of a sudden, because I had equity from that house, right? And so, and that's the piece that kind of gets lost in it, right? But I mean, those rates, they get scared, and justifiably so. Like, it scares me to a certain extent. But the other part that comes with that is just, it impacts your debt to income ratio, like what I can afford, all these other things. But when I look at where this is going, and I've been doing this a while, I've got really good data points and knowledge of this industry at this point, not as much as you do. Obviously, you've seen more cycles than I have. Inventory's low. I mean, we're where we were last year, and we saw what this summer was like with higher interest rates. Let's say your $1,200 scenario. You got to pay an extra $1,200 a month. If interest rates go down in the spring, you're going to need $24,000 to buy that same house, because you're going to have to pay over list price. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
Right.
And so you can
Because
either
the demand
absorb,
is still high.
so high,
And that's
so
Well,
I can
there's
absorb
pent-up
the
demand, because right now everybody's holding back.
Because
Both
of the
sellers
rates.
and buyers are holding back. When everybody lets go, including both buyers and sellers, it's going to be extremely competitive, and it's not going to be.
And kind of wrapping it all together, like we were talking, you know, the need is always there, you know, with upsizing, downsizing,
life,
you know,
life,
relocating, you know, for work and all that. And
mom moves in.
You hit the nail right on. If rates,
So you can either swallow that $1,200 a month for, like, let's call it 9 months to a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because rates we would anticipate are going to be going down into election year, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of markers there that they will go back down somewhat. That's we'll call it $12,000, or what is that? 15, right? Or you need the 24Gs that's gonna take you 2 years to redo, where
Right.
like now you have the house, you don't have to lose liquidity.
Well, and
Right.
it might go up in value over this next 12
Exactly.
months.
But we also
so,
we
yeah.
have options.
But when I
it
tell
comes-
people that, it sounds like I'm selling them, and I'm like, it's just the math.
Yeah.
right.
I'm not selling
It's
them.
economics. But the thing
And
you talk
we-
about with zero down,
Yeah,
you
so we
have
have
USDA.
yeah, we have USDA, you have VA, and with your clients, you would, get them to me, and I would go into the specifics, of all that. But we also, we have down payment assistance programs. Yes, the interest rates have rose on those, but that offers a $5,000 grant towards your down payment and your closing cost. Now, there comes a caveat to that, too, as well. You got to live in the home, for 5 years as well. So, but to purchase a home, we look at your income, we look at your credit, and then we look at your assets. And if we're on the asset side of things, if we're a little short when it comes to our down payment and closing cost, we can get a gift, from a relative, of ours. And so we have.
Of yours?
Yeah,
You're-
I ain't got relatives like that. Kyle's saying no.
Kyle, he's got a money bag that.
No. And if any of my relatives are listening, no.
Yeah. But yes, we have options, with increased, values in homes and interest rates where, we can still get you in the door.
Yeah,
we just wanna,
keep saying that it's better to buy now than later, because we've been talking on this podcast for a good 2 years that now's the time to buy. Well, 2 years ago when we were saying that,
Then was the time to buy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're still saying that, and we have ways to help you as a buyer to get into a home with the 2-1 buy down, or the stuff that offered by Tucker Mortgage that can get you in with all kinds of things. That doesn't have to be just looking at, here's the interest rate and here's the price of the house. I'm out. I'll just sit back. Don't do that. Come to
Right.
us and let us help you figure out what you can or can't do and where you should be, because it's not an impossibility right now, and I think a lot of people feel like it's impossible.
So I think now that we talked about some of the buyer's fears, we talked about some of the seller's fear, because sellers, most sellers turn into buyers, right? So that kind of bridges that. There's low inventory, but stuff is also sitting longer. It's still shorter than it historically has been. It's just longer than it's been recent history over the past 2.5 years, right? Our inventory is so slow. We're also starting to get into the cold months where people are like, I don't want to list. And I can make an argument for everything, just like with the statistics, right? But I sold my last house in November. I think it took us 2 weeks. We did just fine on it. When I say just fine, we didn't, but because we bought it like in August before the market crashed in 2008, so we like kind of broke even after like 7 years or something like that. But we sold it pretty quickly. Historically, I haven't had problems selling houses in the colder months.
Well, we always say though, if you've got somebody looking in November and December, they're
Committed
serious.
buyers.
They are
Yep.
serious. Whereas in June and July, you may have 20 showings and 15 are just thinking about
Kicking
it.
tires, yeah. When
Yeah,
it's nice
these
out, let's
showings-
go look at
Yeah,
stuff.
these showings
Yeah.
are real in November and December.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One point I did want to make though is still with a home, even though interest rates are higher, values are increased on a home, it's still our biggest investment. You can have a high yield savings account, or we see what the stock market is doing. I'm not one that does a lot of crypto, currency or anything like that, but you're getting your largest investment on, owning and purchasing a house.
Because you're appreciating at the same time you're getting equity by paying down that balance, right? So it's the only one that really kind of you get the benefits of both. But for a seller right now, it's just a good time to sell. I mean, you've got options, you've got bridge loans, like there's other things you can do to pivot. You can sell contingent. I've had success doing that this year, which in previous years was more difficult. So that's kind of coming back. But if you just have less competition, so the odds are of getting people in. The bigger problem I have is seller expectations of thinking it's going to sell super quick.
Like, hey, this, my expectations are what it was 2-3 years ago.
Or
Right.
even 8 months ago,
And I call the shots.
Even in June,
Yeah.
right? But you're basically selling in 7 days, or you're sitting for about 40. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Well, I don't want to say 40, more like 30, right?
Yeah, our days on market really have been steady for probably the past 2 or 3 months in regards to, we always say that magic 4, that
Yeah.
it sell over the first weekend, and if not, it's gonna move into the 20 to 25 day range, and that's just fine. But sellers start to freak out, and at
They're
10
dropping
days, they're
prices
dropping
in a
the
week.
prices, and they're
Yeah.
going, but
That's
then,
not what the stats say you should
but
do.
we, as the buyer's agents who see that, go, oh, they think they should have sold by now. We can come in and make a lower offer. So that's
I'm gonna
not,
offer 20 under your
Yeah.
price drop, just to
Yeah,
see how panicked you are.
Yeah.
All day, I'll do that.
yeah, so need to have confidence in the fact that the days on market are not showing 4 anymore, and don't lower your price because it's been 7 days on the market and you didn't get an offer. But I will say at 2025, you may be
You need to
thinking
be
about
dropping
it.
your price.
Yeah,
I agree,
because-
I agree.
You're
Because
still
it-
getting a good ROI, on your investment.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, if, depending on when you sold it, even if you, or bought it, even if you bought it last year, you might be getting an equity, but the closing cost might be, but most people don't flip houses every
We're not
year.
talking cars. You drive it off the lot brand new and you already
Yeah.
lost money.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
right.
it's
That's
already
right.
depreciated. So,
But I just think for me, I see a lot of disservice being done out there where I'm seeing prices dropped right away. And I'm like, God, I mean, everybody gets to do what they want to do. I don't know the motivations that goes into every individual seller, so I don't want to make a broad statement like that. When I see a $10,000 price drop in 7 days, I'm like, what are we doing? Like, did we shoot for the moon? Which happens sometimes. Like, hey, let's
Right.
put it out there, see
Yeah.
what happens. Like, I get that. I've done that myself. Whatever.
kills
the
you.
seller
some
wants,
people are
right?
in
And it kills you when you
situations
do
where
that.
It does.
they need to sell.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, we got to do
Yeah.
what we got to do. But it's just not what the stats say, right?
Yeah.
So for me, for like Fishers, in the past week, 24 went on the market. 16 of those are still active, so only 8 pended, but 24 total pended, which is like a
Oh,
net gain
yeah.
of 0,
Yeah, here
right?
we go, still no.
26 days on market is the average, 11 is the median, and there's like 134 on the market active. Noblesville, 17 went on the market, 13 are still active, like only 4 pended in a week,
Mm-hmm,
but 21 pended last week,
uh-oh.
which is a net loss of inventory from the 17 that went on the market, right?
And
30
that's what we keep seeing, you keep mentioning that's what we're seeing, is we are seeing houses hit the market, but taking into account what's leaving the market.
The stuff that's been sitting for 21 days
Mhm.
or whatever it may be, right? So we're 34 days on market in Noblesville, 16 is the median. So even the median is over 2 weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's 109 on the market, and we were talking about numbers now to last year. For Fishers and Noblesville, we're slightly down,
Yeah,
within
so
about
you
10,
just
but they're
said-
pretty similar.
I pulled a year ago this week.
Yeah.
In 2022. So last year in Noblesville, this week 31 hit the market, and you said
17.
17. So
Yeah.
half.
And 118 total were on the market, and I got 109 on the market
Yeah.
right now.
So in Fishers, 47 hit the market this week last year.
I got 24 this week.
Yeah. So 50% down
Yeah.
since 1 year ago.
And almost 40 houses less on the market.
Yeah. So 177 last year, and you have 134.
134.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So definitely down there.
So
Now-
where's that gonna go?
I know, and it's October.
It's gonna it's gonna create a bottleneck again. Where there's
Well,
not enough houses.
to your
and buyers
point
are-
a little bit earlier, the Midwest is becoming more sought after,
Yeah.
and especially Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky.
centrally located.
I was with a mortgage company based out of Chicago for the last 4 years prior to starting with Tucker Mortgage, and the cost of living here. In my neighborhood, we have neighbors, a lot of them from the East Coast that have moved here for work, and a lot from the West Coast, California
Yeah,
area.
that our phones were
I mean-
ringing after COVID from all the areas,
You know,
Chicago too.
New York, it's
Texas,
great,
a lot of Texas people moved up.
but New York's great. But to live in a 500-600 square foot apartment and pay $2,000, $2,500
At least, yeah.
a month, no thanks.
It's like the size of my garage, I think. I don't know.
Yeah,
So-
it's we get more bang for our buck, and there's Indianapolis and the surrounding cities. There's a lot to we got going on,
Yeah.
too as well.
Well, let's look at, so for Carmel this year, there were 44 that hit the market this year, and then last year was 37. So looking at Noblesville and Fishers, Noblesville and Fishers, you're seeing a 50% decline. Carmel and Westfield staying the same. So it's interesting. 44 hit the market this year, 11 pended, so not as many are pending. Currently there's active 136, 30 of those are new builds. 108 sold in the past 30 days. They list the sale ratio is roughly, again, 98%. So I'm looking at that. And days on market's average 14 and median 6. And I was going to say, we started saying median and average before because there was that lingering new builds or lingering days on market, but the average was always higher. But the median was always what was really, really happening, and it was 4, 4, 4. So that's why we started doing that. So you're starting to see it come together as median and average almost.
The interesting
being the
thing
same.
about your list to sell ratio is like 98 in Carmel, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, you're not getting list price. Well, that price they got was still 10% higher than it would have sold last year. It's just not 12% higher than it would have sold last year, right? So people just see, oh, it's down 2%.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about where you were last year and the appreciation that has gone into
More
it. So
glass
that's
half
the
full
statistics.
than-
Yeah, the statistics always look different depending on how you want to float them.
Yep.
Westfield, only 29 hit the market last year, 27 hit this year, so same. This year, 4 pended out of the 27, so the pendings are down. And there's currently active 82 resale homes. There's 250, so there's 15 total. 133 new builds on the market right now in Westfield. Currently though, sold 156 homes sold in the past 30 days, with 27 hitting the market. We're getting very negative here. So list to sale ratio again was roughly 99% there. Average days on market 24 and median is 8. In Zionsville, 15 hit the market, only 1 pended. And currently there are 69 active, 37 sold in the past 30 days. So Zionsville's a really quiet little town. And list to sale ratio is about 99% to 100%.
Yeah. So we really just wanted to kind of dive into that a little bit. All the information that you're seeing right now and how it's accurate but conveyed slightly incorrectly as far as tone. I would say, right? Like the information is correct, but even like literally just the 98% list to sale ratio, like that's like, hey, houses aren't selling for what they're worth. Like that's how that would come across in a news article when it's like
they're not getting listed anymore. No,
it's like houses are selling for more than they were last year, right? But that doesn't get added. It's this other piece of it, right? The negativity.
Well, my background is in the media and stuff, and if you want to really look at why a TV show or a news outlet puts things out there, it's not to be boring.
No,
they want fear mongering or just to get people to watch and see what the headline said and see what it's really about. Then we take those
That's
headlines.
all you see on the news. You wake up and
they're called teases, so they want to have this tease to get you to listen and pay attention. But then we go in and look at it and delve into it and go, okay, the headline can make sense, but
maybe we need to do that for this podcast. So instead of being like, hey, check out the indie housing stats, we're like, watch Kyle shotgun a C4 live on TV. Maybe that's what we need to start doing. So anyways, if anybody want to let them know who you are, how to get a hold of you, Ross.
So you can reach my cell phone as 317-509-7772. And I'm out of the Carmel office, so stop by and see us, anytime. Email address, first name Ross, ROSS, last name Bromstrup, BROMSTRUP @tuckermortgage.com.
wow, that's a mouthful.
It is not as bad as Jason was. His was humorous.
Humorous or
It was
something.
amazing.
Yeah.
Anyways, you sound like a
Mine's
great
easy.
dog.
Shelly Walters.
It's gonna get better.
317-201-2601, FC Tucker and Shelly Walters Realty Group.
And I'm Kyle Morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker. My number is 317-649-5122.
Thanks for
joining us.
watching.
Thank you.